So this Aukus deal and this meeting, it seems to be happening. First, let's talk about this meeting between the United States, UK, and Australia happening in California. It really does come at a sensitive time, especially for the United States and its relations with China.
Look, Xi Jinping has just solidified himself as leader for life and his power. The Chinese have been talking up aggressively against the United States, saying Xi Jinping, the United States is trying to contain China and circle China. But the actual truth is just the opposite. It's China that is expanding its power dangerously in the world. Just a few developments, obviously. As you mentioned, its militarization of the South China Sea, its threats against Taiwan, which most recently its new foreign minister has said the United States should not interfere with that. And furthermore, it's making the key elements of a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. It's pretty funny or ridiculous that China accuses the United States of nuclear non-proliferation violations when China is supporting Iran, which is building possibly a nuclear weapon. So you kind of have to look at the whole thing. And the last thing I would say, AUKUS is pivotal to this, and also the Quad, which features India, Japan, and Australia. This is a very big strategy of the United States and its allies. Be very candid to push back China's ambitions to control the region and the world. There's absolutely no question about it, and it's about time that these allies have awakened to the threat. The threat is not coming from the U.S. and its allies. The threat is coming from China, no question about it.
And can you give us a sense of the importance of AUKUS for the three partners? Australia's distrust of China, UK looking for influence, and of course, US motives, which you touched on a little bit.
Well, as far as Australia is concerned, you'll recall that when the Australians had the nerve, the temerity to question how COVID originated, the Chinese used, as we say, an elephant to crush a mouse, and initiated terrible boycotts against Australian beef and so forth. Australia is sitting in a very vulnerable area in the world, and it's also pivotal to the security of the world and the security of the Western alliance. There's no question about it. As far as AUKUS, I mean, with some of a little bit of a kerfuffle in the beginning, because France was kind of edged out of the deal, and that's being worked out. The UK now becomes much more prominent. And in terms of the US, this is the only time the US has shared this kind of submarine nuclear technology with anyone other than Britain. So this enhances Australia's position. But Australia, if you look at their politics, I think it's pretty bipartisan, even here in the United States and in Australia, bipartisan support waking up to the confrontation with China that is no longer about trade competition, but is literally about the potential for calamity. I mean, it's interesting that the Chinese talk about the calamity constantly, the calamity of what the U.S. is doing and these other allies are doing. But the calamity is really about the South China Sea, the Indo-Pacific, and the attempt to expand this power and take away freedom of navigation. And the really big one is Taiwan. And Taiwan, the rhetoric on Taiwan, The Economist magazine just had an entire section in this issue on Taiwan. That's the next flashpoint. So in preparing for these eventualities, the United States and its allies, including India, Australia, Japan, UK, and others, are getting together to formulate a strategy to literally contain China. I mean, I don't think it's a secret. NATO was set up to contain the Soviet Union and Russia, there's no question. And these allies are getting together to contain China. It's perfectly fine to have guardrails and have competition, which is what President Biden is talking about. It is not appropriate to cross the line over to confrontation and the potentiality for confrontation. And one would be frightened to think about Taiwan as a potential for invasion. That would be a calamity. And we know that President Xi is going to visit Putin next week. So what we're seeing is a series of worrisome developments, and the allies are reacting.
Mark Merowitz, thank you so much for joining us and for that elaborate analysis. Obviously, we're in a very different place than we were even a year ago, and we're moving really past that global world liberal order of the post-Cold War world war that so many of us knew. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.